Iran has over 1,500 miles of coastline, yet it remains sparsely populated. It borders both the Caspian Sea in the north and the Persian Gulf in the south. That's a lot of prime real estate to build thriving coastal cities, but when you actually look, those cities are small and scarce. No packed beach towns, no tall hotels, no glowing skylines by the water. Instead, Iran's coastline feels eerily quiet. It doesn't add up. This isn't some tiny country. Iran is huge, with 88 million people, and it sits at one of the most important trade crossroads in the world. So why is there so little development along all that water? Today, we're diving into one of geography's strangest mysteries and uncovering why Iran's coastline remains sparsely developed while its neighbors build dazzling cities right next door. Iran's land doesn't exactly roll out the welcome mat for development. In the north, right behind the narrow Caspian coastline, the Alborz Mountains erupt almost immediately from the ground. These aren't gentle hills, they're steep, imposing walls of rock that climb to over 18,000 feet. This leaves just a thin, squished strip between the water and the mountains. Not much room to build anything substantial. And the ground here, it's a builder's nightmare. The soil is waterlogged and prone to flooding. When the rain hits, the water has nowhere to go. Try building highways, skyscrapers, or airports in that, and you'll watch them slowly sink into the mud, while spending billions just trying to keep them above ground. Down south along the Persian Gulf, it's a completely different kind of torture. The heat is absolutely merciless. Summer temperatures regularly soar above 110 degrees Fahrenheit, making it one of the most brutally hot regions on the planet. And water? Almost non-existent. No strong rivers, no lakes, hardly any rainfall. You could try desalination, turning seawater into drinking water, but that costs enormous amounts of money and energy. Most of the year, this stretch of Iran is dry, dusty, and completely inhospitable. Not exactly prime real estate, but that hasn't stopped cities like Dubai in the neighboring United Arab Emirates. The few coastal cities that do exist, like Bandar Abbas, weren't built for living, they were built for moving goods. These are industrial ports dominated by massive cranes, shipping containers stacked like Lego blocks, warehouses and processing facilities, constant noise from loading and unloading. There are no palm-lined promenades here, no beach resorts or tourist attractions. These places exist for one purpose: business. They're transit points, not destinations. Few families dream of taking beach vacations in these industrial zones where the focus is purely on trade and shipping, not lifestyle or beauty. Another massive challenge: earthquakes. Southern Iran sits near major fault lines and experiences tremors constantly. It's one of the most seismically active regions on Earth. Even a small shake can cause severe damage to coastal buildings, and major quakes are always a looming threat. Building safely here requires deep foundations, earthquake-resistant materials, advanced engineering, and constant maintenance. All of this drives costs through the roof. Most investors look at these risks and quickly decide to put their money elsewhere. After all, why gamble millions on a beachfront hotel that might crumble in the next tremor? As if all these challenges weren't enough, climate change is now adding new threats to Iran's coastal regions. In the north, the Caspian Sea's water levels are fluctuating, with recent declines threatening coastal infrastructure. Some settlements face challenges from changing shorelines. Meanwhile, in the south, rising sea levels threaten to inundate low-lying areas along the Persian Gulf, while increasing temperatures make the already brutal heat even more unbearable. Severe weather events are becoming more frequent and intense. Flash floods wash away roads and infrastructure. Drought parches the land and depletes already scarce water resources. For coastal planners, it's like trying to hit a moving target in the dark. The environmental conditions that they design for today might be completely different in just a few decades. To understand Iran's empty shores, we need to look back thousands of years. Ancient Persia built its power through inland trade routes. The famous Silk Road and other caravan paths that connected Asia to Europe. These roads cut through the heart of the country, not along its edges. Persia controlled these routes with strategic inland cities placed at oases, river crossings, and mountain passes. The coast? It was just a border, a place where goods quickly moved in and out. The real action, the palaces, markets, and cultural events, all developed far from the sea, where Persia's strength truly lay. Later in history, European powers started dominating the seas with massive warships and cannons. For Persian leaders, the coastline suddenly became a vulnerability, a weak spot where foreign navies could shell cities or land invading troops. Cities near the water were easy targets. Inland cities were safer, protected by mountains, deserts, and distance. Rather than trying to compete with European naval powers, Persia doubled down on its inland strength. Major cities like Isfahan and Tehran grew far from enemy ships, nestled behind natural barriers. The coast became something to defend, not develop. Even after modern transportation arrived, Iran's development pattern was already set. New roads and railways followed old caravan routes through the country's interior. Government spending focused on improving inland cities where most people already lived. Ports remained functional but basic. They handled trade efficiently but never evolved into places where large populations wanted to settle. The cycle was self-reinforcing. People lived inland, so infrastructure improved inland, which made more people want to live inland. And on it went. Coastal areas never gained the momentum needed to transform from shipping hubs into thriving urban centers. Iran's cultural identity is deeply intertwined with its inland geography. For centuries, Persian poetry, art, and music have celebrated the beauty of mountains, gardens, and desert oases, not beaches and ocean views. The legendary city of Isfahan, with its magnificent blue-domed mosques and vast central square, sits hundreds of miles from any coastline. Tehran, the modern capital, nestles against the Alborz Mountains, far from the sea. Iranian literature speaks of nightingales in rose gardens, not seagulls over breaking waves. Traditional architecture features courtyard homes designed to escape the desert heat, not beachfront villas embracing the ocean. While the Caspian coast attracts some domestic tourists for its milder climate, most Iranians picture snow-capped mountains or lush valleys when they think of natural beauty, not sandy shores. This cultural orientation has shaped where people want to live and where development happens. There's another crucial factor: economic isolation. Developing coastlines isn't cheap. It requires massive investment in roads and transportation, power generation, water and sewage systems, housing and commercial buildings, jobs to attract residents. For decades, Iran has struggled with economic sanctions and limited foreign investment. The country often faces cash shortages for essential projects. When funds are tight, governments typically invest in improving areas where people already live, which in Iran means the inland cities. Coastal development remains perpetually on the someday list, always deferred for more urgent priorities. Iran's strategic position has also complicated coastal development. Located at a critical global crossroads, the country has faced security threats from various directions throughout its modern history. Military planners view the long, exposed coastline as a vulnerability rather than an asset. Building major population centers along the shore would create soft targets difficult to defend against naval or amphibious threats. This security mindset has led to a preference for keeping critical infrastructure and population centers away from the coast whenever possible. Military installations dot the shoreline instead of luxury hotels or residential towers. Even today, Iran's naval bases and defensive installations take priority over civilian development in many key coastal areas, reflecting the country's continued focus on security over commerce or tourism. Now, look at Iran's neighbors across the Persian Gulf. They've taken similar geography and transformed it completely. The United Arab Emirates turned empty desert coastline into Dubai, a global icon of luxury and modernity with artificial islands, the world's tallest building, and international acclaim. Qatar built Doha from scratch, creating a gleaming metropolis on previously barren shores. Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Oman, they all invested heavily in their coastlines, turning harsh landscapes into urban showcases. Dubai's transformation is particularly stunning when you compare it to Iran's coast. Just 50 years ago, Dubai was a small fishing village with brutal heat just like southern Iran, almost no fresh water just like southern Iran, and limited natural resources just like southern Iran. But Dubai's leaders made a bold decision. They would transform this harsh landscape into a global destination, no matter the cost. They started with massive infrastructure investments: roads, bridges, power plants, and water systems. Then came the iconic buildings: the sail-shaped Burj Al Arab Hotel, the Palm Islands visible from space, the towering Burj Khalifa. None of it was natural. All of it was planned and built through sheer determination and massive investment. Today, Dubai welcomes millions of tourists annually and serves as a global hub for business, shopping, and luxury living. And it all started from the same harsh desert conditions that Iran's southern coast still struggles with. Qatar took a more methodical approach with Doha. Using oil and gas wealth, they carefully designed a modern city with clean, wide boulevards, waterfront promenades, museums and cultural centers, and sports facilities that hosted the World Cup. The city feels open and calm despite the harsh climate. Trees and green spaces create oases in the desert heat. Doha proves that with enough planning and investment, even the most challenging coastal environments can be transformed into livable, attractive urban centers. So why hasn't Iran followed its neighbors' examples? Beyond the geographic and historical factors, there's also culture to consider. Iranian art, poetry, and traditions celebrate the beauty of mountains, gardens, and valleys, not beaches and oceans. When Iranians dream of getaways, they often imagine cool mountain retreats or lush inland gardens, not scorching coastlines, though the Caspian coast sees some tourism. This cultural preference means there's less internal demand for coastal development compared to countries where beach living is more highly valued. There is one bright spot on Iran's coast, Chabahar in the southeast. This deep-water port has natural protection from storms, access to major shipping routes, room to expand, milder climate than other southern regions. In theory, Chabahar could become Iran's answer to Dubai or Doha, a showcase city on the water. But progress has been slow. Development faces bureaucratic hurdles, funding challenges, and the same infrastructure problems that plague the rest of the coast. Chabahar shows both the potential and the persistent difficulties of doubling coastal development in Iran. The impact of international isolation on Iran's coastal development can't be overstated. While Gulf neighbors have partnered with world-renowned architects, engineers, and developers, Iran has largely been forced to go it alone. This isolation means limited access to cutting-edge construction technologies, international financing for megaprojects, global tourism networks and marketing, best practices in sustainable coastal development. The stunning architectural innovations that define places like Dubai and Doha require massive collaboration with international experts. Without this global exchange of ideas and expertise, creating world-class coastal cities becomes exponentially more difficult. Even when Iran has attempted coastal projects, the results often lag behind global standards due to this forced self-reliance in a field that thrives on international cooperation. Something interesting is happening now, though. Iran has recognized it's missing out on a massive opportunity. The government has begun pushing for coastal tourism development with ambitious plans, expanding hotel capacity, developing coastal areas and islands, improving transportation links to connect coastal regions, aiming to significantly increase tourist arrivals in the coming years. Tourism brought in around $8 billion last year, and officials are working to grow this sector further. The coastline that sat sparsely developed for centuries might finally see change, if these plans materialize. The big question remains, can Iran overcome all these challenges to transform its coastline? The geography hasn't changed. The mountains still loom. The south is still brutally hot. Earthquakes still threaten. But Dubai and other Gulf cities have shown that with enough determination and investment, even the harshest environments can be transformed. The real limiting factors may be financial and political. Can Iran attract the massive investment needed? Will international relations improve enough to bring in foreign expertise and funding? Time will tell if Iran's quiet shores will finally see the development that has transformed its neighbors. What do you think? Could Iran's coast become the next Dubai? Or will these geographic and historical factors keep it sparsely developed?